Everyone dreams of starting a new life, a fresh chapter, a new identity, a different story than the one they're living now. But if starting over were easy, you wouldn't be here right now, listening to this. You wouldn't feel stuck in the same cycles, you wouldn't be repeating the same patterns, you wouldn't be living a life that feels too familiar to be fulfilling, yet too comfortable to escape. The truth is simple and brutal. You don't start a new life because your mind is still tied to the old one, and until you understand the psychology behind that, you'll keep repeating the same story no matter how badly you want a different ending. It's traditional on New Year's Eve to make New Year's resolutions. People promise themselves they will lose weight, drink less, quit smoking, or start exercising. If they are lucky, they might keep up their New Year's resolutions for a couple of weeks before they run out of steam. Some people will succeed, but many people fail. Why is it so hard to create new habits and even harder to break old ones? Every morning I take my dog for a walk. Sometimes we go out with friends and do different walks, but most of the time, we do a familiar loop from our house. We walk out of our house, across the road, around the field, then back up the hill, and home. It's so familiar, I don't have to think about it. Once I get started, it's easy and effortless, and I can think about something else, what I'm going to be doing that day, enjoy just looking at the scenery or whatever takes my fancy. Even the dog knows that when we reach the field we normally loop around to the right. Just occasionally I will make a conscious decision to break out of the loop and do something different, but that takes thought and effort, and the default is to walk the normal route. The downside of this is it can be a bit boring. If I make an effort to go somewhere new, then it's generally more enjoyable walking somewhere different. So why do I do this? Because it's easy. The dog needs walking and it's the easiest way to get the job done. At each point on the walk, I don't have to make a conscious decision whether to turn left or right because I've done it so many times before. It's automatic. I have created a habit, which means as I walk, I can think about something else. Our brains have so much information to process that they need to prioritize. Our brains routinely offload decision-making and processing into a routine that becomes a habit and is dealt with by the subconscious. Then it allows the conscious part of the brain to focus on the things that are important. If we had to consciously make decisions about every tiny little thing, all of the time, it would tire us out or overwhelm us. Think of the first day in a new job. When everything is new and unfamiliar, it's exhausting. Or a baby learning to walk, before it's routine, it's a huge effort. Habits are useful to us because they allow our brains to be efficient, offloading routine tasks to the subconscious and allowing the conscious brain to do the important stuff. You think you're held back by circumstances, by people, by responsibilities, by lack of opportunity. But what really holds you back is patterned behavior, the autopilot your brain built to protect you from danger. Your brain, honestly, just loves routine, loves repetition, loves the familiar. The key to making or breaking habits is to understand how they work. When a habit has been created, the brain automatically responds to a cue or trigger with a physical, mental, or emotional response, a pattern of behavior that has become routine. That behavior then culminates in a reward of some type, which makes us feel good, which feeds back to the brain, and the habit becomes more embedded. For example, I see a packet of Cadbury's mini eggs, I tear them open and crunch on the delicious chocolatey eggs. My brain gets a little dopamine hit to say that was good. Dopamine is the hormone associated with reward. Next time I see mini eggs, I'm programmed to respond. By the time I've been through the cycle a few times, just thinking about mini eggs starts me salivating, much like one of Pavlov's dogs. Not because it makes you happy, but because it makes you safe. And starting a new life, even if it's better, is unfamiliar. To your brain, unfamiliar equals dangerous, so it pulls you back into the old habits that feel predictable. You're not trapped by life, you're trapped by neural patterns, patterns built long ago. Humans rarely live new experiences. We live the same experiences from a slightly different angle. We attract the same relationships, we repeat the same emotional reactions, we choose the same comfort zones, we abandon the same dreams, we sabotage in the same ways. We wake up every morning as a continuation of yesterday. Psychologists call this emotional homeostasis, your mind's attempt to keep your inner world as stable as your outer world. It's not quite enough to decide to do something. We also need to decide when we are going to do something and link it to a cue for it to become a habit. So, if I want to start running, I need to work out when I'm going to do it and try to use a cue to trigger that behavior. If I decide to run in the morning, I can get my running stuff out the night before. Then in the morning when I wake up, seeing it there will cue my new routine of putting on my shoes and getting out the door. Another way to use cues is to habit stack. Add something onto something that you do already. Rangan Chatterjee suggests using the time whilst the kettle boils to do a few squats or push-ups against the kitchen counter. By adding a tiny bit of exercise in as a new habit in this way, if you drink as much tea as we do in our house, you will soon be fit. We are social creatures, and we don't like to lose face. If we publicly declare an intention, we are more likely to fulfill it. But pick your supporters wisely, share your intentions with people who will support you and cheer you on your way, not sabotage your good intentions. Finding other like-minded people to support you, particularly if you are trying to build up to a big change, is really important. Everyone knows that to lose weight, you need to eat less, but slimming clubs are popular because they provide that mutual support that makes a difference. So even if you crave change, your brain pulls you back to what it considers normal. You think you're making choices, but most of your choices are simply habits wearing a mask. You're not living intentionally, you're living reflexively. People believe starting a new life is about changing circumstances, but the real transformation begins with changing your identity. You cannot build a new life with the same internal story. You cannot create new patterns with the same old thoughts. You cannot evolve while clinging to the person you were taught to be. Breaking the pattern means breaking the version of you that keeps repeating it. The emotional version, the wounded version, the fearful version, the familiar version. Starting a new life is not about becoming someone new. It's about stopping the unconscious repetition of who you used to be. Creating a new life is hard because your brain equates change with death. Not literal death, but the death of identity. Your beliefs, your fears, your limitations, they all form a psychological self. And you know, when you challenge them, your brain panics. It tries to protect the old identity, even if that old identity is honestly kind of miserable. This is why you sabotage new beginnings, why you cling to familiar pain, why you return to toxic comfort, why you choose the past over the future. Your brain thinks it's saving you, but in reality, it's imprisoning you. To break the pattern, you must break the psychological attachment to your old self. The first step isn't action, it's awareness. You cannot break a pattern you cannot see. Look at yourself honestly. What emotional patterns do you relive? What behaviors repeat your past? What fears control you? What beliefs shrink you? What triggers shape your reactions? What comfort zones keep you small? The moment you notice the pattern, you're no longer inside the pattern, you're observing it. And, observation is the beginning of freedom. Breaking a pattern doesn't require massive change. It requires small interruptions. Just one different choice, one different reaction, one uncomfortable truth, one moment of courage, even just 1 minute of discipline on a day you didn't feel strong. Every small disruption, weakens the old identity and strengthens the new one. Change is not a leap, it's actually a series of consistent interruptions until the old pattern has nothing left to hold on to. A new life doesn't happen all at once, it happens quietly, in the decisions no one sees, in the habits you rebuild, in the thoughts you stop believing, in the courage you grow, in the emotions you learn to master. You don't become new overnight. You become new the moment the old patterns stop making sense to you. The moment you realize you were never stuck, you were simply repeating. The moment you see that who you've always been is not who you have to remain. That is the birth of a new life. Your life will not change because you hoped it would, or because you waited for the right time, or because you wished for motivation. It will change the moment you break the pattern, the moment you choose discomfort over repetition, awareness over autopilot, identity over fear, courage over survival. You are not meant to live the same story forever. You are meant to rewrite it. This is Mind Scripted, where your mind learns to break the pattern and start a new life.